Falisade Ademola stood frozen at the entrance of the Acacia registry, her white engagement dress suddenly feeling like a burial shroud. Through the glass doors she could see him, Adebayo, her fiancé of 3 years, standing at the altar. But the woman beside him in a flowing cream gown, her belly swollen with pregnancy, was not her. It was Chioma Okafor, his secretary. The invitation in Falisade's trembling hand read clearly, "You are cordially invited to witness the marriage of Adebayo Williams and Chioma Okafor." The date was today. Their engagement day. The day that was supposed to be theirs. 3 hours earlier, Falisade had been at the salon, excitement bubbling in her chest as the stylist fixed her makeup for what she believed would be their private registry ceremony before the traditional wedding next month. Adebayo had insisted on keeping it small, intimate. "Just us and a few witnesses," he had said, kissing her forehead. "Our special moment, Falisade me." Now she understood why. Through the glass she watched Adebayo slip a ring onto Chioma's finger. His mother, Yatund Williams, sat stiffly in the front row, her face a mask of confusion and shame. The few guests present whispered among themselves, clearly uncomfortable. This wasn't a celebration. It was a scandal unfolding in real time. Falisade's phone buzzed. Text messages flooded in from friends who had just heard the news, their words blurring together. "Is it true? Where are you? We're so sorry." But one message stood out, sent anonymously 2 days ago, a message she had dismissed as a cruel prank. "He's been planning this for months. The baby is due in 3 months. Run, sister. Run far." She hadn't run. She had trusted him. The memories crashed over her like waves. 6 months ago, Adebayo had started coming home late, claiming business meetings. His phone, once casually left on the table, became an extension of his hand, password protected and guarded. When she questioned him, he called her insecure, jealous, dramatic. "Falisade, not every successful man is a cheat. You need to trust me." She had trusted him. She had invested her savings into his logistics company when banks refused him loans. She had stood by him when his business nearly collapsed, working double shifts at the hospital to keep both their lives afloat. She had introduced him to her network, opening doors he couldn't access alone. And this was her reward. The registry clerk appeared at the altar with the marriage certificate. Adebayo signed first, then Chioma, her smile radiant with victory. As the clerk pronounced them husband and wife, Chioma turned slightly, her eyes meeting Falisade's through the glass. The look she gave wasn't apologetic. It was triumphant, possessive, final. Falisade felt something shift inside her chest. Not breaking, hardening, crystallizing into something cold and unshakable. She turned away from the registry doors, her heels clicking against the marble floor with quiet precision. No tears, no screaming, no dramatic confrontation. She simply walked to her car, placed the invitation on the dashboard and drove away. By evening, Falisade's apartment was empty. Her landlord found an envelope with the remaining rent and keys. Her hospital submitted her resignation letter, effective immediately, citing personal relocation abroad. Her phone number went dead. Her social media accounts vanished. When Adebayo finally arrived at her apartment that night, guilt gnawing at his conscience, he found nothing. No furniture, no clothes, no note. Just empty rooms that echoed with absence. His mother, Yatund, stood behind him in the doorway, her voice thick with disappointment. "Adebayo, what have you done? That girl was gold. Pure gold. And you threw her away for what? For this disgrace." "Mama, I'll explain everything," Adebayo stammered. "The baby," Chioma said, "the baby was mine. I had to do the right thing." "The right thing?" Yatund's laugh was bitter. "The right thing was honoring the woman who built you up when you were nothing. Now look at you. A married man with shame written across your forehead. And Falisade? Gone. Vanished like smoke. That girl won't beg you, Adebayo. She won't fight for you. She's too proud, too dignified. You've lost her forever." Adebayo clutched his phone, dialing Falisade's number repeatedly. Each time, the automated voice confirmed what his heart refused to accept. "The number you have dialed does not exist." Chioma arrived at the apartment moments later, her hand possessively on her belly. "Adebayo, why are you here? We should be celebrating. We're married now. Forget about her." But as Adebayo stood in that empty apartment, surrounded by the ghost of what he'd destroyed, one thought consumed him. Where did she go? And more terrifying, would she ever come back? 3 months passed like a slow-motion nightmare for Adebayo Williams. The registry marriage that should have brought him peace instead brought chaos. Chioma, the woman who had whispered sweetness and patience during their affair, transformed the moment the ring touched her finger. "Your mother disrespects me," Chioma announced one morning, slamming a plate onto the kitchen counter. "She came to this house and called me a homewrecker. I want her banned from here." Adebayo. Banned? Adebayo rubbed his temples, exhaustion weighing on him like concrete. "Chioma, she's my mother. I can't ban my mother." "Then you've made your choice," Chioma screamed, storming into the bedroom and locking the door. This scene had become routine. Every day brought new demands, new ultimatums, new manufactured crises. The business was hemorrhaging money. AB Logistics, the company Folisade had helped him build from nothing, was collapsing. 3 major contracts canceled within weeks of his marriage. The explanation was always the same, delivered with uncomfortable politeness: "We're restructuring our partnerships." But Adebayo knew the truth. These weren't just clients. They were Folisade's connections, people who respected her judgment, her character. When she left, they left too. His accountant, Mr. Ogunlade, sat across from him with grim reports. "Adebayo, we're losing ground rapidly. The investors are asking questions. They want to know why Folisade Ademola's name has been removed from company documents. Several are demanding audits." "Folisade wasn't officially a partner," Adebayo said weakly. "Perhaps not on paper," Mr. Ogunlade replied carefully. "But everybody knew she was the backbone. Her medical salary funded your first 3 trucks. Her family connections secured your contracts with the pharmaceutical companies. Now those companies are pulling out. They're saying they don't do business with men who lack integrity." The word integrity hit Adebayo like a physical blow. He had become a cautionary tale, whispered about in business circles and family gatherings. "Did you hear about Adebayo Williams? Married his side piece on his engagement day. Humiliated that lovely doctor who supported him. Ah, these men with small minds and big foolishness." Even at his local bar, where he sought refuge, conversations died when he entered. His former friends offered tight smiles and made quick exits. Respect, once freely given, had evaporated overnight. At home, Chioma's demands escalated. "I need a new car, Adebayo. This pregnancy is hard. I can't be entering Danfo buses. And the baby needs a nursery. I'm talking premium furniture, imported from Dubai. My friends are watching, expecting to see what kind of man I married. Chioma, the business is struggling. We need to be careful with expenses." "Struggling?" Her eyes narrowed dangerously. "You weren't struggling when you were spending money on Folisade. I saw the receipts, Adebayo. Designer bags, expensive dinners, trips to Dubai. But now that I'm your wife, suddenly there's no money." What Chioma didn't mention was that those designer bags had been gifts from Folisade herself, bought with her own money for Adebayo's birthday and achievements. The Dubai trip had been funded by her savings to celebrate his first major contract. Folisade had given freely, expecting nothing. Chioma demanded constantly, satisfied with nothing. Yatun visited less frequently now, her disappointment a living presence. When she did come, she ignored Chioma entirely, speaking only to her son. "I heard something today," she said during one visit, her voice heavy. "Someone saw a woman at the airport, tall, elegant, confident. She looked like Folisade, but different, transformed. She was boarding a flight to London, carrying herself like royalty." Adebayo's heart lurched. Did they speak to her? They tried. She smiled politely and kept walking, like she didn't recognize them. Or perhaps like she'd moved so far beyond this place that we're all just shadows to her now. Yatun's eyes filled with tears. "That girl was supposed to be my daughter. I dreamed of grandchildren with her gentle spirit and your father's wisdom. Instead, I have this." She gestured vaguely toward the bedroom where Chioma sulked. 2 weeks later, a legal document arrived via courier. Adebayo's hand shook as he read it. Folisade Ademola, through her London-based attorney, was claiming financial interest in AB Logistics. The document detailed every investment she'd made, 43 million naira over 3 years. Bank transfers, receipts, email confirmations. Everything meticulously documented. The claim wasn't revenge. It was business. Cold, professional, and legally airtight. She's suing you? Chioma shrieked when she saw the papers. That bitter woman is trying to destroy us. But Adebayo saw the truth in those carefully prepared documents. Falisaide wasn't bitter. She was strategic. While he'd been expecting her to collapse, to beg, to fall apart, she'd been building a new life. A better life. A life where men like him no longer existed. His phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Some women don't cry. They calculate. You taught her well, Adebayo. She learned not to trust men with her heart. Only with contracts that lawyers can enforce. That night, alone in his study while Chioma slept, Adebayo did something he'd avoided for months. He searched for Falisaide online. Her old profiles were gone, but his search led him to a professional website. Dr. Falisaide Ademola, now based in London, specializing in emergency medicine at a prestigious hospital. Her photograph showed a woman he barely recognized, poised, powerful, untouchable. The woman he'd betrayed had disappeared. In her place stood someone who had learned the hardest lesson life offers. Some people will destroy you if you let them, so you stop letting them. 8 months after the registry disaster, Adebayo Williams sat in a hospital waiting room, his world disintegrating around him. Chioma had gone into early labor, screaming accusations between contractions. This is your fault. The stress you've put me through. If anything happens to my baby, I'll never forgive you. The baby arrived at dawn. A boy, small but healthy. The nurse placed him in Adebayo's arms, and he searched the tiny face for recognition, for connection. But something felt wrong. The baby's features didn't echo his own. The skin tone was different. The shape of the ears, the set of the eyes, nothing matched. Doesn't he look like you? The nurse asked cheerfully. Adebayo couldn't answer. The doubt that had been whispering in his mind for weeks now screamed. 2 days earlier, he'd received an anonymous text message with a single photograph attached. Chioma, 6 months pregnant, in an intimate embrace with another man at a hotel in Victoria Island. The timestamp showed a date when she claimed to be visiting her sick mother in Enugu. Who is this? Adebayo had texted back. The response was chilling. Someone who believes you deserve to know the truth. Chioma Okafor has been playing you from the beginning. The pregnancy was her golden ticket. She chose you because Falisaide had made you successful. You were her retirement plan. I'm sending this because I know Falisaide. She deserves better than being remembered as the fool who lost a man to a con artist. You're the fool, Adebayo. Not her. Now, holding this baby who might not be his, Adebayo felt the full weight of his choices. He'd thrown away diamond to clutch at glass. At the office, what remained of it, worse news awaited. His lawyer, Barrister Adelik, arrived with documents that made Adebayo's blood run cold. The court has ruled in favor of Dr. Ademola. She has legal claim to 40% equity in AB Logistics, based on documented investments and proven contribution to business development. You have 60 days to either buy out her share at market value or liquidate assets to satisfy the judgment. 40%? Adebayo's voice was hollow. That will bankrupt me. That's the legal reality, Barrister Adelik said, not unkindly. She has every receipt, every bank transfer, every email where you acknowledged her financial support. Her lawyers are excellent, Adebayo, and they're not interested in negotiation. They want what she's owed, nothing more, nothing less. Can I speak to her? Explain that the business is struggling. The barrister's expression was pitying. Her lawyers made it clear. Dr. Ademola has no interest in communication with you. This is strictly business. She invested in a company. She's entitled to returns or equity. Your personal history is irrelevant to the court. That evening, Adebayo's mother arrived at the hospital, her face drawn with worry. But she wasn't there for the baby. Adebayo, I need to tell you something, Yutun said, her voice trembling. Last week, I attended a charity gala in Lagos. It was for medical missions in underserved communities. And I saw her. Falisaide. His heart stopped. She was the keynote speaker. Standing on that stage in an elegant emerald dress, confident and radiant, talking about resilience and rebuilding after trauma. The audience gave her a standing ovation. After her speech, I tried to approach her, to apologize on your behalf, to tell her I think of her as the daughter I lost. Yatun's voice broke. She saw me, Adebayo. She saw me and smiled, a kind distant smile. Then she turned to the man beside her, a distinguished-looking gentleman who clearly adored her, and they walked away together. She's moved on, son. She's thriving. And we're drowning in the mess you created. Adebayo felt something crack inside his chest. While he'd been hoping she was somewhere nursing her broken heart, Folisade had been building an empire. She wasn't the victim in this story anymore. He was. 3 days later, the DNA test kit arrived at his home. Chioma found it first and exploded. You dare question if this is your child? After everything I've sacrificed? After I left my job to marry you? You were my secretary, Chioma. You didn't leave a career. And I need to know the truth. The truth. She laughed, but it sounded panicked. The truth is you're an ungrateful man who doesn't deserve a family. But the test was done regardless. Adebayo swabbed the baby's cheek while Chioma screamed threats and insults. Then he swabbed his own and sealed the samples, sending them to the laboratory with express processing. 5 days later, a manila envelope arrived. Adebayo sat alone in his car in the empty parking lot of what used to be his bustling warehouse. Inside the envelope was a single sheet of paper with clinical language that destroyed what remained of his world. Probability of paternity: 0%. The tested man is excluded as the biological father of the tested child. 0%. Not his son. Not his responsibility. His entire marriage was a lie. Adebayo didn't cry. He didn't rage. He simply sat in that car, staring at the paper, understanding with perfect clarity that he had destroyed his own life. He had traded a woman of substance for a woman of deception. He had chosen lies over loyalty, manipulation over integrity, and now he had nothing. No business, no real family, no respect, no future. The phone he'd been clutching buzzed with a notification. Falisade's name appeared in a news article. Dr. Falisade Ademola, named Rising Star in Emergency Medicine, launches Foundation for Women's Financial Literacy. He clicked the article and read about her achievements, her plans, her vision for helping women protect themselves from financial abuse. In the photograph, she stood surrounded by smiling faces, her own smile genuine and free. She had disappeared without looking back. And in doing so, she had found herself. Adebayo had stayed right where he was. And in doing so, he had lost everything. 1 year after the registry betrayal, Adebayo Williams sat across from his lawyer in a cramped office that smelled of stale coffee and broken dreams. The DNA results lay between them like an accusation. Barrister Adelik had reviewed the paternity test 3 times, his expression growing grimmer with each reading. This changes everything and nothing, the lawyer finally said. You can divorce Chioma on grounds of fraud, but she's still entitled to some settlement. Nigerian family law is complex, and she'll claim you knew about the relationship issues. She lied about everything. The baby isn't even mine. And yet you married her without demanding a paternity test. The court will ask why, if you had doubts, you proceeded with the marriage. Barrister Adelik sighed heavily. Adebayo, you humiliated another woman publicly to marry this one. That doesn't look good. It suggests you acted in haste and poor judgment. Chioma's lawyers will use that against you. The divorce proceedings became a public spectacle. Chioma hired an aggressive attorney who painted her as the victim of a manipulative man who had seduced her with promises of marriage, then abandoned her when paternity was questioned. She conveniently omitted her role in orchestrating the pregnancy and the registry ambush. My client was a naive young woman who trusted Mr. Williams when he claimed to love her. Her lawyer argued in court. She left her employment, her reputation, everything for this man. Now he seeks to discard her like trash because of a test result. Where is the justice? The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, looked unimpressed with both parties. But the law was the law. Chioma was awarded a settlement that, while not large, would drain what remained of Adebayo's failing business. Meanwhile, the judgment in Falisade's favor proceeded without mercy. Court-appointed assessors valued AB Logistics and determined that her 40% equity stake was worth 87 million naira, at current market value. Adebayo didn't have 87 million naira. He barely had 8. Your options are limited, Barrister Adele Eek explained. You can liquidate the business and pay her from the proceeds, or you can try to negotiate a payment plan. But understand this, Dr. Ademola's lawyers are not motivated by revenge. They're motivated by law. She's owed this money. Period. Can I at least speak to her? Explain that I've lost everything? Appeal to her mercy. The lawyer's laugh was bitter. Adebayo, listen to yourself. You want the woman you publicly humiliated to show you mercy? The woman who invested her savings in you, who stood by you when you had nothing, who you replaced on her engagement day. You think she owes you compassion now? I made a mistake. No, Barrister Adelique said firmly. A mistake is taking the wrong exit on the expressway. What you did was calculated cruelty. And now you're facing calculated consequences. Dr. Ademola isn't being cruel. She's being just. There's a difference. The business liquidation was devastating. Equipment sold at auction. Trucks repossessed. The warehouse lease terminated. Employees, many of whom had families depending on those wages, lost their jobs. They cursed Adebayo's name as they cleared out their lockers, their accusations echoing in the empty space. We heard what you did to that doctor woman, one driver said, his voice thick with disgust. She was good to us. Always made sure we got bonuses on Christmas. Then you go and marry that witch who treats us like dirt. Now look. All of us suffering because of your useless decisions. Social consequences were even more brutal. Adebayo's friends avoided him entirely now. Family gatherings became torture sessions where aunties and uncles delivered thinly veiled criticisms. Ah, Adebayo, how is business? Oh, not good. Well, that's what happens when you lack wisdom. We heard your wife wasn't even carrying your child. Some men will really trade gold for copper, and wonder why they're poor. His mother, Yatund, grew increasingly ill. The stress of watching her son's spectacular downfall, combined with grief over losing Falisade, manifested in high blood pressure and heart complications. The doctors prescribed medication and rest, but Yatund's spirit was broken. I keep thinking about Falisade, she told Adebayo from her hospital bed, her voice weak. That girl would have been the perfect wife, the perfect daughter. She had grace, intelligence, dignity. And you, my foolish son, you threw her away like she was nothing. Every day I pray she's found happiness. And every day I pray you understand what you've lost. Mama, please rest. You need your strength. For what? Yatund's eyes were hollow. To watch you continue destroying yourself? To pretend your marriage was anything but a disaster? Adebayo, I'm dying with regret. Regret that I didn't fight harder for Falisade when I saw her character. Regret that I raised a son who values appearance over substance. My heart is breaking. Not from disease but from disappointment. 3 days later, Yatund suffered a major stroke. Adebayo sat beside her hospital bed, holding her hand as machines beeped rhythmically. In her semi-conscious state, she whispered names. Falisade, my daughter. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her she deserved better. Chioma never visited the hospital. When Adebayo called to tell her his mother was dying, she responded with ice. That woman never accepted me. Why should I pretend to care now? Besides, I have my own problems. The settlement you're paying isn't enough. I need more money, Adebayo. My baby needs things. Your baby, Adebayo corrected bitterly. Not ours. Remember. Chioma hung up. 2 weeks later, she would disappear entirely, taking the divorce settlement to another city, leaving no forwarding address. The baby, another man's son, vanished with her, leaving Adebayo with absolutely nothing to show for his betrayal. On a gray Tuesday morning, a message reached Adebayo through a mutual acquaintance. Falisade had returned to Nigeria briefly for a medical conference. She would be speaking at the Eco Hotel. Despite knowing he shouldn't, despite understanding how pathetic it would appear, Adebayo went. He stood at the back of the conference hall, watching her command the stage. Dr. Falisade Ademola spoke about trauma recovery, about rebuilding after devastating loss, about finding strength in the ruins of betrayal. Her words were powerful, clinical, yet deeply human. The audience was captivated, but she never looked his way. Not once. It was as if he didn't exist. After her speech, as attendees swarmed her with questions and praise, Adebayo tried to approach. A security detail politely but firmly intercepted him. "I'm sorry, sir. Dr. Ademola isn't taking unsolicited meetings. I just need 5 minutes. Please, tell her it's Adebayo." The security guard spoke into a radio. A moment later, a voice responded, crisp, professional, final. "Dr. Ademola says she has nothing to discuss with that individual. Please escort him from the premises if he persists." That individual. Not even his name. He had been reduced to a category. Irrelevant, dismissed, erased. As security guided him toward the exit, Adebayo caught one final glimpse of Falisade. She was laughing at something a colleague said, her face radiant with genuine joy. A distinguished man stood beside her, his hand resting respectfully on her shoulder. Not possessive but protective. Supportive. The way Adebayo should have been but never was. She had moved on. Completely. Absolutely. Irreversibly. And he was still trapped in the prison of his own making, surrounded by the rubble of everything he'd destroyed. 18 months after the registry disaster, Adebayo Williams lived in a one-bedroom apartment in a modest neighborhood in Ikeja, a dramatic fall from the 4-bedroom duplex he'd once owned. The business was gone, liquidated to satisfy Falisade's legal claim. Chioma had disappeared entirely, taking her baby and the divorce settlement to parts unknown. His mother's funeral had been sparsely attended. People stayed away, unwilling to be associated with the family's shame. On her deathbed, Yatun's final words had been heartbreaking. "I saw her one more time, Adebayo, at that charity event. She was magnificent. Glowing. Free." The man beside her looked at her the way you should have, with reverence, not possession. "I wanted to beg her forgiveness on your behalf, but I knew she didn't need my apologies. She'd already moved past us all. My last wish was to see her happy, and God granted me that. My only regret is that she won't be at my burial, won't be the daughter-in-law carrying my grandchildren. That loss is your legacy, my son. Not mine." Those words haunted Adebayo's sleepless nights. He'd become a cautionary tale in Lagos social circles, the man who destroyed his own life through stupidity and betrayal. Job applications were rejected once employers Googled his name. The scandal had followed him everywhere. The logistics industry, once his domain, was closed to him. No one wanted to do business with a man known for poor judgment and treating people badly. His apartment was bare except for essentials. One photograph remained from his former life. A picture of him and Falisade at a friend's wedding 2 years ago. In it, she looked radiant, her smile genuine, her hand resting trustingly in his. He was looking at the camera, oblivious to the treasure beside him. That photograph was his daily punishment, a reminder of what he'd carelessly destroyed. 3 weeks after his mother's funeral, the final court documents arrived. The liquidation of AB Logistics was complete. After settling debts and paying Falisade's claim, Adebayo received a check for 1.2 million naira. All that remained of a business once valued at over 200 million. The bank statement also showed another transaction. Falisade's lawyers had donated her entire settlement, 87 million naira, to a foundation supporting women leaving abusive relationships and pursuing financial independence. The foundation's name, the Yatun Foundation, named after Adebayo's late mother. The attached letter from Falisade's attorney explained, "Dr. Ademola wishes you to know that she never sought this money for personal enrichment. She sought it as a matter of principle. No woman should invest in a man and be left with nothing when he betrays her." The court agreed. Now that money will help other women protect themselves, educate themselves, and never depend on men who don't deserve their trust. Dr. Ademola also asked us to convey that naming the foundation after your mother was intentional. Mrs. Yatund Williams was kind to her, and this is how she honors that memory, by helping women the way your mother tried to help her. Adebayo sat on his threadbare couch, that letter trembling in his hands, tears streaming down his face. Even in victory, Falisade had been gracious. She'd memorialized his mother, honored her memory, while he had disgraced it. The humiliation was complete. She hadn't just moved on. She transcended him entirely, becoming something he could never reach. Genuinely good. His phone buzzed with a news alert. His hand shook as he clicked it open. The headline read, "Nigerian doctor Dr. Falisade Ademola announces engagement to renowned British surgeon." The photograph showed Falisaid on a beach at sunset, wrapped in the arms of a tall, kind-faced man who looked at her like she was the center of his universe. Her smile was incandescent, her joy uncontainable. The caption read, Dr. Ademola, who recently launched the Undone Foundation for Women's Empowerment, is set to marry Dr. James Okonkwo, Chief of Surgery at Royal London Hospital. The couple met while collaborating on emergency medicine protocols and became inseparable. Dr. Okonkwo proposed during their humanitarian mission in Kenya. The wedding is planned for next spring in London. Adebayo stared at the photo until his vision blurred. She was getting married to someone who deserved her, someone who recognized her value, someone who would never humiliate her, betray her, or take her for granted. He thought about reaching out, about sending a congratulatory message or an apology, but what words existed for what he'd done? Sorry I destroyed your life on our engagement day? Congratulations on finding actual happiness after I gave you trauma. No. Some distances are unbridgeable. Some betrayals are unforgivable, not because the wounded person holds grudges, but because the betrayer can never undo the harm. His phone buzzed again, a message from his cousin Bukola, one of the few family members still speaking to him. I hope you're seeing this news about Falisaid. That could have been your wife, Adebayo. Your children. Your legacy. Instead, you're alone in that apartment with nothing but regrets. I pray you've learned something, but I doubt it. Men like you never do. But Bukola was wrong. Adebayo had learned. He'd learned that betrayal doesn't just hurt the person betrayed. It hollows out the betrayer, leaving them with nothing but echoes of what they destroyed. He'd learned that some women don't beg or fight or seek revenge. They simply remove themselves and build better lives, leaving you to suffocate in the consequences of your choices. He'd learned that Falisaid's silence had been more devastating than any revenge could have been. She hadn't cursed him, hadn't tried to destroy him. She'd simply let him destroy himself while she flourished elsewhere. That night, Adebayo stood on his small balcony, looking out at the Lagos skyline. Somewhere out there, Falisaid was preparing for her new life, her new marriage, her foundation that would help countless women avoid his cruelty. Somewhere, she was laughing with friends, planning her future, thriving in ways he never imagined possible. And he was here, alone, broke, disgraced, his business gone, his mother dead from heartbreak, his marriage revealed as fraud, his reputation destroyed beyond repair. The universe didn't need to punish him. He'd punished himself far more effectively than any external force could. He'd looked at a diamond and called it ordinary. He'd held gold and traded it for painted copper. He'd been given unconditional love and chosen conditional lust. Some losses can never be recovered. Some choices reverberate forever. Some betrayals cost you everything. Adebayo Williams understood that now, in the hollow silence of his empty apartment, holding that photograph of a woman who had loved him once, a lifetime ago, before he taught her that love without integrity is just another word for destruction. Falisaid hadn't needed to look back. She'd found everything she needed by looking forward. And he was trapped forever, looking backward at what he'd destroyed, unable to move forward because the weight of his choices was too heavy to carry anywhere but down. Some endings aren't redemption. They're just consequences. And this was his.